Hey everybody, this is Nafio. I've always been very interested in the serverless technologies that are available in the cloud. So when AWS first pushed Lambda and then eventually we got Google Functions, things have been getting better and better on the serverless side. But this time around, we have something that's really cool, which is a serverless version of Postgres. Not any particular database, not a document database, just plain old Postgres. And so I thought it would be really cool to have a review of Neon, which is the serverless Postgres vendor right now. And I think it would be really cool just to take a look at what they offer and what it's like. Is it any different from running a normal Postgres machine on, say, a cloud server anywhere? And so this is kind of like my hands-on into using Postgres as a function, I guess. And that's why I wanted to do this. So enjoy the demo, and I'll be back real soon.
All right, so this is what Neon's database console looks like. There's not much, but it has all the important stuff that you need. I'm going to go ahead and just reset my password. And don't worry about copying it. I've already reset it by the time I've published this video. So underneath you have operations, which shows you what's happening inside of your database. And you can see like here, this project is green and it's working. Sometimes you'll see it as orange, sometimes you'll see it as gray. These all indicate like it's not working or it's in progress. Now you also have a bunch of code samples that you can use. So here, for example, you have the Django example, and it's given you the password. So you just put this inside of your settings.py file. I mean, this is pretty helpful for when you're starting out. So I really like the effort that they've made to make this friendly for developers to use. Heading into the SQL editor, we see that this is a little SQL editor. It looks like a very basic editor, no code completion, but it does work, I guess, and you can ask it to explain your queries. You can further analyze it as well. So it's not bad for basically something that is still in limited preview. And going into users, you can see that you have my username and also web access for the SQL editor. So what we're going to do is just fire up my terminal and just copy this connection string. And I'm going to PGCLI into that. Now, I don't use PSQL because it doesn't have code completion. I'm going to use PGCLI, and I'm just going to paste in this string and just head in there. And that should, okay, that connects pretty easily, and I can do a simple query just to see how things are working. And things seem to be working fine. It's more or less snappy. And I don't really see any issues with it so far. So how about I just pump this database full of some, useful data. I'm going to get some data from PG exercises, and I'm just going to kind of paste that in. For now, I'm just going to put in all the information into my PyCharm database side panel. I'm going to test the connection. Everything seems to be working. Now, this is what I mostly use to work with databases. So it's pretty cool that it's working out of the box. I had a lot of problems setting up Heroku for the first time, and I still do because there is a special SSL option that you need to configure and get right. So this is pretty simple to use, and it seems like pretty much everything that you'd expect is there. Okay, so now that we have our database all hooked up, I'm just going to go in and paste a lot of SQL in there. I got this from PG Exercises. It's always a little SQL script that I use just to test out new databases. It's always been pretty useful. So I'm going to go ahead and run that, but we are going to head into a problem, which is that we can't create an exercise directly from the console, or at least directly from connecting to the database. You can indeed create other databases. It's just that you can't do it this way. And I will show you that you can indeed create exercise. I mean, you can create another database if you want to. All right, so with that out of the way, let's just run this again. I'm just going to ignore that, and it's going to go ahead and keep running all the statements. And you can see as we scroll down, you'll see like which statements are being executed and which statements have problems. So far, everything seems to be working just fine. All right, so altering tables done, creating indexes done, and we should be able to see the changes in our databases. Probably we'll need to, oh, there it is. We'll need to introspect our schema again, just trying to understand what is inside of the database again. So we're just going to go ahead and introspect the schema. Don't worry about this. It's just saying that connection canceled, but actually it's working just fine. So it's still introspecting the main database, and as far as all the data, it should be done. So we've put our bookings, facilities, and members table inside of our CD schema. And yeah, everything seems to be fine. Although I do feel like the fetching is a little slow. Yes, fetching is taking 193 milliseconds, so it's not all that fast. But then again, this is kind of like the use case for a database like this, which is something very cheap, something very fast. And by fast, I mean really fast to set up. You don't have to do a lot of work. And it seems to be set up just fine. Here we have our members, and everything seems to be working just fine. The columns, the keys, and everything is all there. So I guess from the perspective of utility, this is just like any other Postgres database. It doesn't feel like I'm compromising on anything. So here I'm going to select from bookings. Of course, there are many other tables, probably functions as well, but like from bookings, just to start off with a single and simple query where booking ID is not null. So that seems to execute more or less quickly. I think over time fetching does get faster. And I have seen that in the time that I've used it. Fetching does seem to get faster, even for the same query, or a similar query with a large enough payload that returns. So I think it does take a while to get hot, but once it gets hot, it does pretty well. Now you can create other databases inside of this, I don't know what to call it, database, but essentially you can have other databases inside of this server if you wanted to. You can go ahead and go into settings, I think, probably. Yeah, let's head over to settings. And over here you have databases, and over here you can create a new database if you want. So it's not like you're restricted, but I guess the way you need to create it is through the website. So after ingesting all that data, I just started to play around with the data a little bit, doing a join here and there. And overall, my experience has been pretty pleasant. I don't really see it becoming an issue. Of course, I haven't really load tested it, but overall, it was quite pleasant. And the fetch time sped up as I started to write more queries. And so I can report that this is not a bad prototype database that you can use. I will go into what happens when you don't use it for a couple of minutes. It does go to sleep, and it does take a long time to start up the database again, and you'll see that. But overall, my experience has been pretty pleasant. And I know that I've said like fetch time goes down. Of course, if you make the same query over and over again, the fetch time will go down. But like even on queries that are similar, the fetch times improved. Overall, I'm pretty happy with what they've put out so far. And I can't wait to test this out a little bit more. The last thing I wanted to check out was whether or not you could create functions using Python or JavaScript. I mean, why would you want to create a function in JavaScript is beyond me. But like, if you wanted to, I don't think it comes with support. At least I haven't seen it supporting like PL Python. Right now, all it does is support PL PSQL, and that's about it. Now, the last thing is just to show you that, it does take a little bit of time to start up. So this is me connecting to the database again, and you can see that it's introspecting things. And once I double click on bookings, it does take a similar amount of fetch time to what it initially took.
All right, folks, so you took a look at what Neon has to offer. There are a lot of interesting things that they do, but most importantly is the uninteresting thing, which is that it's pretty much like any other Postgres database. Yes, there are some latency downturns and upturns, but overall, if you're using this to make a very small application, this is just fantastic because you don't have to pay very much. You only use what you need. And when you don't need it, you just go do something else. So, and you're not going to get billed for it. So that's really quite cool. Now, there are other databases as a function databases out there, but they're all kind of vendor locked in. This is just pure Postgres. It's like any other Postgres that you can get on any other cloud. And it's really cool that you can do that. As for why this really intrigues me is that, I mean, it's all coming together. The idea of having your stateful functions as well as your stateless functions work together in a seamless way, and you only pay for what you use, that's pretty cool. And that will have implications on especially your smaller applications, because now you can create a hook, you can create basically a small processor or a processing application, and it's not going to take up a lot of your time. It's not going to take up a lot of your resources. So that's pretty useful. Now, I have to say, this isn't actually useful for all kinds of scenarios. Some scenarios will not be good if you have very high scale. Perhaps this is not the best idea. I've just talked a little bit with the founders of Neon, and they still have a product that's kind of a work in progress. But it does have a lot of promise, because you see the situation where you have all these different parts of your application come together and behave in a very pay-as-you-go kind of way. And I think that's pretty cool. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. And if you liked this video, please like and subscribe, and let me know if you want more reviews of new emerging software technologies. Until next time, bye-bye.